experiment time. Today I'm going to bake sourdough bread with 3 different milk powders and see what the differences are. Whole milk, skim milk, and buttermilk. Hi, I'm Sune and I'm a food geek. Today I'm going to experiment with milk powders. A couple of weeks back I did an experiment to see how much whole milk powder was the best to get a certain effect on the crust, the crumb, and the taste. The conclusion was 15% is a good amount. If you want to watch the entire video, it's linked in the card above. Well, today I'll be trying out 2 other milk powders, namely skim milk and buttermilk. As always, I'll be making a control bread, then I will make one with whole milk powder, one with skim milk powder, and one with buttermilk powder, all using 15% milk powder. We'll see how it affects the crust, the crumb, and the taste of each bread. It's going to be super interesting. If you're new to this channel, I bake a lot of sourdough bread and I make delicious food from all over the world. If you want to see more of this content, please join me by subscribing and ringing the bell so you won't miss any future videos. The dough is my standard experiment dough, 80% bread flour, 20% rye flour, 80% hydration, 20% inoculation, and 2% salt. Everything will be mixed from the beginning in 4 separate doughs, fermented individually, then shaped, and then in the fridge. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider becoming a member at Patreon. You can also buy some merch or use the links in the description for tools and ingredients. Those were the words. This is the experiment.
This is not a recipe, it's an experiment. If you want to learn how to make sourdough bread, I recommend that you watch my master recipe. The link is in the description. First I mix each dough. You can find a link for the formula for each bread in the description. Then I leave them to rest for an hour. Then I perform the first set of stretch and folds. Then the second set of stretch and folds. And the third set of stretch and folds. Then I put the doughs in the proofer until they're grown 50%. They're all done at the same time. Then I pre-shape all the doughs. And final shape them. Then they go into the fridge for about 8 hours. Then it's time to bake them. I grab the loaf out of the fridge, dust the bottom, flip it onto the peel, score it, and then I bake it. Just before I finish the steaming, I prepare the next loaf. Dust it, flip it, score it, bake it. Then after 25 minutes, I grab the first loaf and let it cool. I bake the rest of the loaves the same way. Alright, time for the all-important crumb reveal. Then it's time for the sniff and taste test. Smells great. Brown bread, somewhat yeasty, with a delicious sour note. Delicious. It smells brown too, but with a distinct smell of milk. Very mild, very pleasant. While it has a dark crust, it doesn't smell burnt or anything like that. That smells wonderful. It has a distinct yogurty note. Time to taste. I love this bread. Delicious wheat taste, earthy dark notes from the rye, a moderate and pleasant sourness, a very well developed flavor. This bread is delicious. It has a rich mouthfeel. The crumb is very soft and has a beautiful milky taste. This bread is a bit more anonymous. It has a soft crumb and tastes good, but nothing stands out. That's not necessarily a bad thing. This bread tastes great. It has a sourness like yogurt.
So what were the differences? Well, each powder has its own distinct features. The whole milk powder makes the bread rich and soft, both in the crust and the crumb. There are no sour notes to the smell or the taste. You can feel the fat when you take a bite, and it's delicious. It also has a distinct taste of milk to it. The skim milk powder has a very mild smell and a rounded taste. I wouldn't say that you would be able to tell it was milk, but it's certainly pleasant. The crumb is softer than the control, but the crust is as crunchy as the control. The buttermilk, this is probably the most interesting of the bunch. The smell that comes off this bread is very yogurty. The crumb is soft, but the crust is very crunchy. The taste has a tangy note, not like the sour you get from rye, for example, but that of yogurt. It's not overpowering, but it's really suitable for bread, in my opinion. Another interesting note is that at the same temperature and the same baking time, both the skim milk powder and the buttermilk powder made for a distinctly browner bread, almost bordering on looking burnt. The funny thing though is that it didn't smell or taste at the least bit burnt, so it's more of an aesthetic thing. Alright, I hope you learned something today. See you next time.